There's a lot of credible reason to believe that NASA's full of shit. They get $62 million a day. They admit that they can't safely send humans through the Van Allen radiation belt today.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
They have not been back to the moon in over 50 years. Now you have to ask yourself this, in American history, where has Uncle Sam ever gone and then just decided to leave? Like, no, I'll leave you guys to it. We don't need to colonize anything over here. There's no natural resource for us to steal. That doesn't sound like us. That's not the American way. There's so many more questions that I have to bring up. In this next segment, I'm going to be speaking with one of the guys from the network, Luis. We're going to talk a little bit more about a few of these topics. We're going to do the who's, the where's, the what's, the when's, the why's, and we're really going to deep dive into why people don't believe we went to the moon. I'll let you guys know more about what I believe, but I mean, if you haven't seen the shirt yet, this is what I believe. You asked me, did we put a handful of Freemasons on the moon? The answer is nah, son. And these shirts are available on the Mogul Minds website. This is a crew neck, actually. It's pretty dope. It is fall. Definitely go check those out. If you support us, support the podcast, check out our merch. It's quality. This is 5, 6, 7 washes in. I don't even know how many times I've worn it or washed it. It's good quality material. I'm definitely interested to know what you guys think, why you guys think we went to the moon, and if you still have that same opinion after you hear our deep dive. Let's get into it, guys. Have you seen the footage?
I have seen the footage. I think everyone has seen the footage.
A lot of people haven't, and for those who haven't, go ahead and check out the footage.
3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston.
Now that you guys have seen that, handful of questions. Who filmed it landing? How was the president talking to them on the moon? What satellite is facing the moon? So how were they able to pick up signal? Because the satellites that are floating around Earth, there's tens of thousands of them, right?
So there was the spaceship, and then they detached the lunar module from that spaceship, and the spaceship kept orbiting the moon. So the spaceship is the satellite. Essentially, it would receive the audio. Okay,
so the spaceship gave them signal. Okay, fine.
And then the spaceship would probably relay that information to the astronauts. However, if it's on the other side of the moon, it would be difficult.
So they would have to hurry up and catch it when it's
essentially,
orbiting.
they would all have to be aligned.
Okay, we can roll with that, right? How did they get the film through the Van Allen radiation belt? For those of you guys who don't know, and we talked about this a little bit in the intro, there's tens of thousands of miles of intense radiation. Outside of that intense radiation, there's solar flares. The whole concept of the rocket and the lunar space module making it through this, problem with that is when they initially went on the Apollo 11, that's the first one that landed, right? When they initially went, I can find you footage of a NASA astronaut.
You couldn't hear it in the vacuum of space. Any ill effects from the Van Allen radiation belts?
No, now I'm not sure we went far enough out to encounter the Van Allen radiation belt. Maybe we did.
Up on Wikipedia says James Van Allen discovered it in 1958.
Correct.
So if James Van Allen discovered it in 1958, but NASA astronauts were unaware of it, then how could they have built something strong enough to make it through and protect them from all of the radiation and get filmed through this radiation? And what metal alloys were used? Because from my understanding, none of the metal alloys are strong enough to withstand that intense radiation, nor are they strong enough to withstand the solar flares that would be outside of it. Okay, so these are just questions I'm posing, right?
What do you think this Van Allen belt is?
What I think it is irrelevant, right? We know what they say it is. We know there's two ends to look at it, right? There's the old world, in which they also believed we were in some encapsulated system. And you can call that what you call it. Even Wernher von Braun actually did an homage to that old world thinking on his tombstone. All right, we had to take a brief intermission there, but Luis, you were saying?
So who is Wernher von Braun?
Wernher von Braun is the head of NASA, the founder of NASA. He worked in collaboration with our intelligence community and military in order to start NASA, which is our space program.
So he was the designer of, basically the father of...
He was one of the head Nazi scientists. And
so how did he come to the U.S.?
So when we defeated the Nazis is the verbiage that they like to use and teach us in school. But what actually happened was all of the high-ranking military, like generals and shit like that, these guys flee to South America by and large. There's entire German communities in South America.
This is public knowledge.
Right,
yes.
Right. And then also Russia and the U.S. split up all the scientists.
It was like a game of recess. I'll take you, you take
like dodgeball. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, boom, they were doing a draft, basically, a Nazi draft. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying, dude? That's what they did. So
this was Operation Paperclip.
This was Operation
Declassified.
Declassified.
You have all of those resources. You'll link them.
Just like every episode of Scarecrow's Wish, I'm gonna give a playlist along with the episode, and you guys can go and check out my playlist. It's gonna have a bunch of fire content. Hardcore conspiracy theorists, you've seen some of it. Maybe some of you have seen a bunch of it. None of you have seen all of it. Yeah. Right. And it's good to have it in one place. That way you can just share it with people who aren't familiar with this information.
So they divvy up, these are top scientists, top engineers.
Some of the experiments that they were doing, sick. People have said to me, oh, but not all Nazis were bad, they had to do it, or not all the Nazis, or what do you mean good Nazi? What the fuck are we talking about right now? What's a good Nazi?
Yeah.
That's, shut the fuck up to those.
You also have to
take into account the draft.
The root cause of the way that a certain culture is taught, right?
In order to get any group of people to do something or have the group think that you need, you use propaganda. They also brought over not just Nazi scientists, but propaganda specialists.
Yeah.
Shortly after you see, because up until this point, they were doing like the race to the center of the earth. And then all of a sudden the space race starts. And you start seeing all types of different campaigns run, like out of these Nazi scientists that were doing all of this sick, degenerate science. Some of these people that they were bringing over, these Nazi scientists, these are people who were running programs like injecting blue ink into the eyes of Jewish captives. To see if they could change their color eyes.
Yeah. Well, let's just focus on the space thing.
So these are the people that we make American citizens.
These are high-ranking individuals. They have
their families.
Very much a lot of power,
right?
A lot of money,
right?
A lot of influence,
right?
And they divvy them up. Mm-hmm. They bring them to the United States and
to Russia. We split them up. Now we're supposed to believe that they were no longer communicating with their friends in Russia and their friends in South America. Fine, whatever. That's just what we're supposed to believe. Because if you and your homies are running some illegal cartel, right, and the cartel goes down, but y'all don't got to go to jail, but y'all do get split up, you guys are just going to stop talking now. Because you have to, because that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Former Nazi.
I get it. No,
okay.
Okay, so they're here in the United States. Von Braun is spearheading NASA.
Right.
He essentially built the V1 and V2 rockets.
Right. He's the mastermind behind all of these initial leaps and bounds.
So we fast forward now. World War II is now over. Mm-hmm. The dream team is now split up, or whatever you call it. They're in United States.
No, everybody has a new dream team.
Well, yes, everyone now has a new dream team, and now it's a race to space.
No longer the race to the center of the earth. And how we even got to Wernher von Braun, if you actually take a look at his tombstone or listen to his old assistant, her name was Dr. Carol Rosin. Funny, she's actually the wife of Dr. Stephen Greer, who is the guy who did the Unacknowledged documentary. That's on Netflix. You guys should check that out.
Wait. So the secretary
for Wernher von Braun,
which I'm assuming was much younger than him,
right?
Which makes it plausible that she now marries this.
She's still alive. Yeah, they're older Greer. Now. Yeah,
and she essentially was there for the intimate parts of his day.
She was there on his deathbed.
Yeah,
she was there on his deathbed. He did a deathbed. according to her.
So there's 1 degree of separation between this Stephen Greer guy through his wife, who had first account interaction with von Braun.
Stephen Greer's uncle actually worked on the lunar space module.
Okay, so he has a lot of...
Right.
He's very close to...
all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So unacknowledged is definitely a good one. And even these guys, they got
So who is Stephen Greer? He's the guy who...
He's been running the Disclosure Project.
Right, about UFOs and
Yeah.
intelligence.
Right. He has some pretty out there theories. Joe Rogan had him on his podcast way back in the day, has not invited him back.
I was not aware that he had
so many connections.
Such a close connection to...
intelligence community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Nazis, essentially.
Yeah. So Unacknowledged is definitely something for you guys to check out on Netflix. Long story short.
But the thing is about him, I'm sorry, is he makes himself look so independent.
Right.
That's when I first ran into him. I know of him, but he sounded so independent. Like I'm just a guy.
Everybody against me. Yeah. Like they ignore everything.
You are literally 1 degree of separation from the mastermind of the V1, V2 rockets that killed thousands and thousands of lives, hundreds of thousands of lives.
I think that his job is I think that he's deep state intelligence community, and this is where my opinion comes into play. I will always make it a point to tell you guys my opinion. Where my opinion comes into play based on a few years of me following his research, seeing what he was into, watching his documentaries, all of this. I think that he's intelligence community, deep state. He's controlled opposition. I think that his objective is to give out some truths that they don't have any other way to give out, but then also give out some propaganda. And I don't know if he's being fed propaganda. He says that he'll get misinformation with the good information and he has to cross-examine and see what's real. I can believe that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to leave that where it is. I think that man is intelligence community. Yeah. I think that he's deep state.
It's plausible.
Okay. Now, back to the facts at hand with this whole moon landing thing. So, you guys saw the video. We saw this video, and this is the video that we're supposed to believe that little tinfoil bullshit detached from a rocket, landed on the moon, didn't leave any prints, right? And then while they were on the moon, they took some photos and some video. They had intersecting shadows. You know what intersecting shadows would lead me to believe? What would they lead you to believe?
You're on stage. Were you right?
Multiple lighting sources.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah.
Right. You say stage because you're thinking about the full setup. But yeah, essentially. There's multiple lighting sources. That's the only way for you to have intersecting shadows. Like right now in here, we have a light back here, we have a light up here.
Yeah.
We have some intersecting shadows in this room. Now, if you're on the moon and the sun is behind you, because it's clearly not in front of you, we'd see it in the picture if it was. If the sun is behind you, all the shadows should be going one way. Because the sun's a massive object, you're a tiny object. Problem is they have shadows that are intersecting. That says to me, multiple lighting sources.
Do you know if the
lunar space module
had like floodlights or something like along those lines?
In no pictures of it or in the blueprints do I recall seeing any other lighting, and nobody that I've heard asked about that actually ever brings that up. So that would be news to me. That would be a very convenient argument in my eyes.
Revised blueprints have them sketched in.
Right, which they have been known to do. But so the intersecting shadows is a weird thing. And then they're like, okay, well, people's main thing a lot of times is, dude, there's so much proof. There's so much proof. I don't like to get into that why would they lie situation, but I will at the end of this podcast.
After pretty much at the end of the series.
Right. Why would they lie? But to start, $62 million a day, I'd fucking lie to most of you about a whole lot of shit.
That's a lot of money.
Right. Now, they brought back rocks. Have you ever actually seen... Okay, so they get back in July, right? The astronauts. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the third guy. I don't think that was Edgar Mitchell. I don't think he was on Apollo 11. Doesn't matter. All three of them, right? They get back in July. They don't do any press until September. Fine, maybe the trip to space.
July, August, September. Yeah, I mean...
Maybe the trip... It's just weird. Me thinking about how long of a time period that is.
It's a long time to...
The most important thing in human history.
It's a long time to really get a story together.
Right. And the video, we can't come to too many conclusions from the video. Here's what we can come to. It seems that not everybody has the answers to the very simple and basic questions that reporters are asking. It seems that none of the three of them want to be there. That's just weird. It seems like none of them want to be there. They all look really depressed. What they look like to me is people who didn't know they were going to be lying to the public.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what it looks like to me. People who, okay, they could have been down with the plan the whole time, but they didn't know they were going to be doing press.
Yeah.
You know, this might have got sprung on them because they probably thought they weren't going to have to do press. The video was going to be good enough. And then the public's like, the fuck? We got to talk to these dudes.
Yeah.
These dudes just did the most important shit in the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, fine, whatever. And then it spirals into me looking at all the different things that astronauts have had to say. You can pull up so many videos of these guys. First off, it blew my mind to find out that the International Space Station was not in outer space. Like that
What
was
do you
like, it's just not in outer space.
It's, what is it?
High up.
So
It's just a satellite.
Yeah, but is it like a turbine engine that's giving it gas, or how?
I don't think, you know what, I've actually downloaded the blueprints for it, and I don't know exactly how the mechanics of it work. But it's just a satellite. It's just...
How I understand space, and, you know, I could be
pieces
wrong.
can be added to it at any time, the way that it's
Well,
built.
once you're in outer space, you pretty much...
No, hold on. As of 2019, the moon is now, according to NASA, the moon is now in Earth's atmosphere. So it was always
something like that. It's
right.
the very thin.
They didn't know before.
Film of atmosphere.
Right. They didn't know before, but the moon is technically in Earth's atmosphere. Nothing in Earth's atmosphere is outer space. So according to mainstream science, we've never been to outer space.
Okay.
Because humans have never gone past the moon.
You'll pull up that article as well.
I will pull up that article.
I remember seeing that.
Right. I probably shared that in the group chat too, because it's just funny that all of a sudden the moon is in Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah, and all these years it was...
Right. All these decades it was in outer space.
Okay.
And now it's in Earth's atmosphere. Okay.
They're, what is it, pedaling back?
Yeah, they're backpedaling. Yeah, weird. But I don't know. How do we get to the moon and it being in Earth's atmosphere? Oh, you were asking about outer space, and I was talking about the International Space Station.
It's in the inner part, right?
The International Space Station is in lower Earth orbit.
Okay.
All right, so it's, I think, 250 miles above Earth, they say. That's
still pretty far.
No, it's far as shit.
Okay.
But it's not that far in the grand scheme of things.
Oh, when you, like, blow it all
right.
up. And...
Yeah, if you see what I'm saying? Okay, so the International Space Station is up there. And, you know, there's different astronauts and cosmonauts, and I forget what the Asian astronauts are called, but they're always up there doing their thing. Now, they always have to speak with different schools, like colleges, high schools, elementary schools. They're always talking to kids. You can always find this on their channel. And you'll see them doing flips and shit in zero gravity.
With the, like, blue suits and...
Yeah, all their goofy shit.
Yeah.
Now, what you can also see is dozens, if not hundreds of videos of people pause. There's actually a GIF now, and this one's fairly new. I think if you type in, like, when you're looking for GIFs on, like, social media or whatever, I think if you type in NASA hoax, this GIF will come up of a guy flipping in the air, and you can obviously see where there's a harness attached.
Like it's pulling on the clothes.
Right, it's pulling on the clothes.
You see a little...
You see so many, and then the women's hair is always up like it was gelled up.
Right?
You know, like...
if I had no gravity right now, my hair...
Would your hair be everywhere?
No, I think it would just stay down like this. It might float a little bit.
Right.
And maybe the static...
But why would it stick up?
Maybe the static. But if you have...
what is the static acting upon?
If you have product in your hair, it should keep it down,
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Dude, I'm black. I get fucking my haircuts at 3935 North Pulaski, Tonsor Shop. Go check them out. Ask for that Mogul Minds discount. Shout out to our sponsors over at Tonsor, official Chicago Bears barber. Go check out our episodes with the Bears, cuts and combos. But I don't know anything about product and how it all sticks up or anything.
Maybe your hair might become very straight. And
I don't see why that would happen, but I also don't anticipate me ever going to space. And then brings me to another point. If you guys haven't noticed, ever since the last Apollo mission in the 70s, they always say, we're going back in 5 years, we're going back in 10 years, we're going back in 5 years, we're going back in 10 years. They keep saying this, and they keep needing more money. And people's number one response is, well, Trump keeps cutting the funds for them. We need to privatize space, and they're just not giving NASA enough money. All right, look, guys.
Is that how they sound, though?
In my head.
Okay.
Yeah. There is, look, if you extrapolate, with inflation, what it cost to do it back then and what it would cost to do it today, they've had the budget to get it done. But we'll move past that. Back then, they had a computer the size of this room to get this shit done.
Yeah.
I have a more powerful computer right here.
That's true.
There's not one video of them live streaming. Some dude, you know, getting on the spaceship, going up, getting on the moon,
keeping it live.
Getting out. There's not one. It's 2019. Why can't you just live stream me one asshole going to the moon? Just one. Right. Oh, we already did that. Why would we need to send them back to prove it to you? No, prove it to the taxpayers, the people's grandchildren. The last time you went, my grandma was young and popping and doing her thing out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we talking about right now? My mom was a young woman, you know, the last time they went.
Why? What is it that you think that they haven't gone back?
I think it's more interesting because another thing people say is, well, why would all the other countries lie if they're lying? Why haven't they sent anyone? Isn't that just as good of a question?
China just...
Did they send people or a rover? Because, yeah, okay, fine, cool. You showed me 2006 PS3 graphics saying that it's somewhere doing something. Cool, guys. Yo, the screensaver came on. Is it still recording? What was the last thing we were talking about? How long it's been since the last time that they went? I find it really, 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 really odd that we went to the moon in 1969, 6 times between like 1969 and the early 70s. And we haven't been back since.
Yeah.
The dude we did it under got his fucking ass impeached. Isn't this all Nixon era? Weird.
Weird.
Why hasn't anyone else taken us back?
I don't know.
That makes no sense to me. They get $62 million a day. We have starving children and veterans in this country. Why are we giving these assholes so much? Maybe we should just cut funding for like 10 years, fix our infrastructure, and then come back to it. I don't know.
It's not like we've made improvements, right? Other than GPS.
GPS we had prior to NASA. GPS, that's a whole different thing. That's a different rabbit hole that I found myself down.
Okay.
And GPS does not work the way that most people think that it works. Actually, over 98% of data usage in the world doesn't come from satellites. It's all the cell towers. That's why you drop calls in between cell towers.
Yeah.
Same thing with GPS.
Yeah. There really isn't a true satellite phone unless you pay top dollar for it.
And none of us have that.
the internet goes through cables.
Underwater cables. Like people don't know about
these. People think it goes through the satellite.
Right.
It's really not. There might be a few.
There's transatlantic cables stretching from here to other continents.
Really, that's public knowledge too. The cables are huge.
Massive.
They're
like,
really.
It actually says a lot about how industrious we are.
Yeah.
Like, it really does, but it's just not the way that people think it operates.
Yeah.
Like, I remember arguing with some dude on Instagram because he thought he knew what he was talking about, and he just didn't.
Yeah.
And he's telling me, how do you think your phone's working right now? And I was like, well,
through the wires.
It's not actually how you think.
Yeah, and radio.
But, you know, I'm sure he's done the research by now, and he probably hate watches my content, so...
It is what it is.
I'll bet you figured that one out by now. You should probably just apologize to me, and I'll humbly accept it. But, look, dude, let's raise a few more questions.
I'm really interested about the funding. Like, where does this money go then, if they're not doing anything with it? Who's the beneficiary of the funding?
That's a question that I really want to get to the bottom of.
Because if you're getting all this money and you're not producing,
right.
What's going on?
Right.
And it appears to me that a lot of the political climate right now is divided. So what made it any different back when, where all the politicians were on board with this?
I think that strategically, it was a really good move, especially back then. The political climate was wild, you know, during the Cold War and everything. It's a multi-purposed thing that they're doing here if they fake the moon landing, by them doing it, right? You're convincing the Russians, who also got their Nazi scientists working on rockets to get to the moon and everything.
Yeah, so that would be an easy win.
Right. You wanna convince them that you beat them, force them to use what would otherwise go toward their military budget on their space program,
which could also then lead to the Cold War. And then even in today's climate, right? You see them still in the news
all the time. It seems like they're just repeating the same script to an extent. It's really interesting when you look at it like that way.
Yeah.
What other questions did you have?
So, I also have come across this the Stanley Kubrick director.
Yeah, man.
And he had an astronaut in one of his movies. I believe it was The Shining, or one movie where it might have been Eyes Wide Shut. Where it
was one of the two. I can't remember which one.
There's an astronaut in it, like out of the blue, like just random astronaut.
Dude, so much of mainstream media has alluded to this. You ever seen the Family Guy episode where they do the moon landing and then he walks off set and someone sees him, he cracks him with the helmet and throws him in the trunk of his car? Yeah. And you'd be surprised how many people have died just, around NASA.
Suicide with 2 bullets.
Stanley Kubrick, he was basically Steven Spielberg of that time. And there's actually photos and all this evidence of him actually meeting with British intelligence leading up to the moon landing.
Okay.
Which is just weird. Like, if Steven Spielberg was meeting with CIA, I would be super concerned. If he was meeting with British intelligence, I would be even more concerned, because now you're meeting with the intelligence community of a foreign government. It sounds like if our government is allowing you to do that, then somebody's okay with it and they just don't want to be liable for it.
Yeah. So then that just reiterates the fact that CIA is in Hollywood, right? Hollywood is CIA, CIA is Hollywood.
Are people not... So I didn't know that people weren't aware of this. From the roots of Hollywood, it has been a part of the intelligence community. You would be surprised how many of your favorite actresses, pop stars, and things like that are children of military intelligence.
And is this something that's declassified, like they're on
it's
payroll?
Never been... as far as CIA... I have a declassified document that I got through following Stephen Greer. If you watch Unacknowledged, he actually tells you which document to look for. I can't remember the name of it right now, but I did the FOIA. Like, you can go on the FBI vault and pull these documents.
Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, Freedom of Information Act. You can pull these documents. There's a document that says the intelligence community is in all facets of media and all of the higher level colleges, all facets of media, all of it. The entire media is owned by like 6 corporations. There was actually a banned SNL cartoon where they did like the Schoolhouse Rock thing too.
Yeah, I remember that one.
It's just 6 corporations. No, actually, I think 5 now with the Disney-Fox merger.
Yeah, Disney. Yeah.
Disney. Yeah, I think so. It's just 5 now. So Big Brother just got a little bit bigger.
A little bit of consolidation.
Or smaller.
Prior to this, there were 6 missions to go to the Antarctic.
Well, there was multiple missions to go to the Antarctic, and we're going to delve deeper into this into the next segment, but why don't we bring up the missions?
Sure.
In 1946-ish, there was Operation High Jump.
1940. So they already have these scientists by this point, right?
Yes, they had started porting them over. They already knew what time it was, because you got to think dudes like Einstein and shit were already over here. So this is a part of a bigger plan, you know what I'm saying? It's not like they operate like the average civilian. They're planning shit out decades ahead of time. So 1946, boom, it's us and a few other countries seeing what's up, what's at the edge of this shit.
Yeah.
Like, they're still not 100% about the heliocentric model. It doesn't matter how many, a handful of scientists are all, you know, they don't know the exact diameter of Earth, and they don't know what's exactly in the Antarctic. They don't know what's in all these places. 80% of the ocean is still undiscovered today.
Yeah.
So it's not like they always knew everything. I think that's a very recent thing for people to pretend like we know it all. All right, so Operation High Jump happens in 1946. Operation Deep Freeze happens in 1955. Operation Deep Freeze is if we're in this enclosed system and they know this, whether they teach it to us or not. Maybe some advanced alien life forms like, look, we got to get these monkeys under control.
Each mission had a
specific objective, yes.
Yes.
And these were I'm sure there was the exact same mission at around the exact same time that the Russians were doing, and it's probably called something different. So it's not like Uncle Sam was the only one going. And if you guys want to go down this rabbit hole, look up Admiral Byrd, Operation Deep Freeze, Operation High Jump, Admiral Byrd, B-Y-R-D. That's another, he deserves his own episode.
He will get one probably. I don't know, but what are the other four?
He'll get one. And then NASA's founded in 1958. The Antarctic Treaty is established in 1959. This one's extremely important. The Antarctic Treaty is a treaty that says none of us, it doesn't matter if me and you are billionaires right now, we can't, there's no independent exploration below the 60th parallel. We can't go to the poles and just do what we want. No one's ever
So the South Pole. 60th parallel south, right?
Right, but it's south from essentially any direction.
Okay.
You see?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So you can't go, there's no independent exploration. No one's ever circumnavigated the Earth north to south. There's one guy that claims he's related to the royal family. And if you actually look up his route, he's debunked. Like, it's not what we would consider circumnavigating. You know what I'm saying? Like, he went across on an angle a very small sliver.
Yeah.
That's not what we would consider it. You know what I'm saying? It's just not if you look at the route and find it yourself. All that being said, this is the longest running treaty that Uncle Sam's ever signed with all these warring nations, and no one broke it.
This is the only one?
Yeah, like what other one? What other one?
The Treaty of the U.S. dollar.
That's not a treaty. That was highway robbery done by gangs.
All right, so
gangsters.
what are the other ones? What are the other ones?
Yeah, so just to reiterate that, because we lost a second there, we got Operation High Jump, Operation Deep Freeze, the founding of NASA. You need to look into who did that, when that happened. We got the Antarctic Treaty, we got Operation Fishbowl, we got the Apollo missions, right? I don't even need to just stick to the one. Because the Apollo missions in and of themselves, that's an entire rabbit hole themselves.
Yeah.
Because there's one, I think it was called Challenger. That's the one that blew up.
Okay.
And there was 5 or 6 astronauts on it. I can't remember exactly how many.
That was in the 80s. That was
Right.
with the teacher.
Right. And what's really interesting about that is if you just listen to conspiracy theories and hear what they have to say and why they're saying it, more often than not, they'll surprise you with some really interesting information. I came across a YouTube documentary, which is now blacklisted. It's kind of hard to find, but it's there. It's been taken down multiple times from the original channel, but it's there and it has hundreds of thousands of views.
Which
and
one?
It's called Impossible.
Impossible.
Right.
Okay.
And he gets into NASA a lot. What's really interesting, I find, and if there were victims that day, and if that thing blew up and those people are dead, my condolences to the family. I wasn't alive. I don't know exactly what happened. I can only look at all the information that's presented right now.
Yeah.
And from the looks of it, let's say that there was 5 people, at least 4 of them have doppelganger, twins, and nobody knew that they were twins before. Nobody knew that they had twins going into their mission, and then when the thing blows up and they're supposed to be on it, now we have to pronounce them dead. There's people who are the same age as they would have been, who look exactly as they would with age progression or this deep fake tech, or they look exactly how those people would have looked, and the only reasonable explanation is they were all twins. Because there are people who have similar names to them. A lot of times first names stay the same, last name change, or last name stay the same, first name change. Sometimes they just took on their middle name as their first name. And some of these people are professors at Ivy League schools. They're all just working, living life, chilling, whatever. It was an Asian dude, a black dude, Caucasian woman, and at least one white guy.
And I haven't heard this one, but you'll provide images.
There'll be links in the playlist, and I'll pull up at the very least for the visual a meme where you can see for yourself that these look like the same people. It's like, I wouldn't be saying possibly offensive shit just for the sakes of saying offensive shit.
You feel that there's a need for people to be aware of.
Right. At least look at the information.
Plausible. Maybe it's possible. Who knows?
Right. I can't say that I know 100% fact either way. I just know I'm not a person who believes in coincidences, and there seems to be a lot of fucking coincidences surrounding these group of Nazis who started an organization stealing my money. Right. Uncle Sam has a bone to pick with me. Like, history shows.
Yeah.
He's been on dirt with me for the longest. And you too, for that matter.
I mean, it is what it is. But
right. I'm not sitting here complaining about it.
This has been like a huge undertaking. More than likely, it started in the 30s with Einstein seeking asylum.
And who knows how many other scientists came over in that same time period that weren't famous.
Yeah, like let's say, Einstein is the Michael Jordan of his realm, right?
Right.
But who knows the Scottie Pippen, right? Who knows the Dennis Rodman or like the Patrick Ewing?
Right.
You know,
we don't
LeBron
know these
James.
dudes, but I'll bet you people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, for example, who we know I'm not a huge fan of, I'll bet you he knows a bunch of scientists' names who we have no idea about these people. You know, science nerds, I'm sure that they know a ton of people who contributed to huge things, and we have no concept that these people existed because, I mean, come on, how much do you remember from middle school science class?
There are coincidences that it does seem like things do align to at least be plausible, at least look at it, at least look into it, at least have an open mind, and if something is true, accept it, right?
Right.
And a lot of people just get angry because you're challenging how they're living their life and what they believe, and people hate feeling like I've been lied to.
That is, I hate the feeling of you got over on me. That gets under my skin. Like, it's fine if I know what you're doing and I allow you to do it.
Yeah.
It's different if you've convinced me that you've done something good for me and the entire time you were getting down on me.
Yeah.
Like, that's a completely different thing, and it's a different feeling that it gives me, which is why I feel the need to look into these things and raise these questions. And this is just part one where we get a chance to raise the questions, show you some of the evidence, some of the proof, some of the things that we're looking at on the internet, I'm looking at on the internet, Luis has seen independently, some of the things that are just out there that you guys should be aware is out there. And I mean, ask yourselves, do you have these questions? Do you have questions about any of the stuff that we brought up today? Luis, you have any other questions? I can run over a couple more of the things that I have here if you don't. But I want to end this more so on a questioning portion. I dropped a couple of gems. People can pick up, you know, along the way. We're going to go further. This has to be multiple parts because it's, I mean, shit, these guys have been going at it for 50 years. Like, how much could I cover in 30, 45 minutes, you know?
For me, it's more of trying to be independent and trying to be in the middle and just accept things, right?
Observe the evidence.
Accept what comes out.
Right.
And if I'm wrong, that's fine. If you're wrong,
I'm wrong, I'm fine with it. I just, after looking into this now consistently for about 2 years, I would more so believe that they walked through a Stargate portal and got on the moon than the goofy shit that they actually showed us in the official story that they want us to believe.
It almost seems that this Van Allen belt is a firmament, right? It's some sort of barrier.
It's a barrier. Well, I mean, look at it like this.
It's not a barrier where it's like, it's not Trump's wall,
right?
Quote unquote. It's a barrier in a sense where it's radiation. It'll decay your atoms essentially, right?
It should give you at the very least radiation poison. Yeah. It's like it should be much worse than chemotherapy.
Yeah, by
and radiation.
By multiple folds.
Right. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. And I think that what it was in 1969, they had no fucking idea that we're going to have fucking
there's
YouTube.
Also, and I know this also, I've seen this where they say that they lost the telemetry data.
Oh, man. Like,
all these pages.
You
it's
know
not
that.
like it was a sheet of paper. It was boxes of equations.
Oh, no, like, it should have been boxes and boxes of reels and film and, like, the things taking measurements from the time they take off to the time that they get back. All of this. This should have been a room full.
Yeah.
And they came out with a news story this year that they accidentally sold it in auctions. And some dude just...
You see what happened was...
Yeah, you see what happened was... Like, so the most important feat in human history, you guys put the boxes in a room and lost it. With my tax dollars and your tax dollars and our parents' tax dollars, so you guys destroyed the shit and lost the shit. And it's a painful process to bring it back. You don't have any way to get them there now. According to other NASA, I have these videos downloaded too, according to other NASA scientists. How do you lose the footage from the most... Shouldn't this shit be like fucking at Fort Knox?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are we talking about?
Guarded, or at least at the Smithsonian.
Like, it should be in some deep underground military base, which they have.
All right, so, I mean, they lost this data. You know, that must mean that people are in on something. Have astronauts or people within this organization, like, on their deathbed, have they been like, man, it was all a lie?
Dr. Carol Rosin, who was Wernher von Braun's assistant, she actually said that it's all a part of a multifold plan. And the overarching agenda is to create hysteria, like how I said they brought the propaganda specialists over here, and then you see them start pumping out all these scary alien movies, alien this, alien that. It's getting heavy right now. Look at Thanos. Oh, he's coming to wipe off half of the Earth, and alien this, alien that, alien this, alien that. Everything's alien. They're bringing back Alien versus Predator. It's a lot of space exploration. They're bringing back trash ass shows. What's the one with? The trash ass robot, the Robinson family. They're bringing. They
Lost
brought that.
Outer Space.
Yeah, Lost in Space. They brought that shit back. There's a lot of space shit. They keep telling us, oh, NASA almost missed this huge asteroid. Oh shit, there's some spaceship out there, super far away, but it could be here in a couple of years, and it could be a mothership. They're implanting ideas in people's heads.
Yeah, that
predictive program, and it's like fucking.
Or that one astronaut that was not that one asteroid that was like a cigar. And
yeah, the cigar shaped
interstellar
one. Yeah.
Space, and it
pull that. Yeah,
it could have been a
mothership.
Yeah, or something.
Right, and or like a surveillance. Yeah, it's a surveillance mechanism sent by some mothership. You know, and she says that it's all to prep us for the false flag alien invasion. She says Wernher von Braun told her that it's all to prep us for a false flag alien invasion, and people are going to buy that shit. People are going to buy that shit because they got all the fucking tech to do it.
That is stretching it.
It is stretching it, but only if you don't understand history and context. What's his name? I think Nixon or Reagan talking to Mikhail Gorbachev?
Yeah. Imagine if an alien race
boom.
outer space.
What the fuck was he talking about? You think he was just talking out his ass?
No.
Right.
He was an actor too.
Why would he say that?
It was Reagan.
Where was the script? It was Reagan. Side note, for those of you guys who haven't seen it, it is at the very least interesting. I don't believe any of it, but it is super fucking interesting. The Trump conspiracy theory about him being a time traveler, that shit's wild. You seen that one?
Well, I understand the first people to raid Tesla's room
was Trump's uncle. No, that's accurate. That has nothing to do. I have that Guy Hotel document.
I can see where that can go.
That's actually declassified information. You can pull that off the FBI.
Tesla was a very smart individual. He doesn't get enough credit.
We're gonna have to do some homage to Tesla shirts.
And it's not Elon Musk. Like, don't associate the two.
I think that they specifically chose the name Tesla to rewrite history.
Yeah.
For Elon Musk and his own.
Elon Musk. Everything in his car has been around for 100 years. He just managed a way to put it all together.
We know a bunch about
they sent
Tesla,
one into
Stan
space,
Meyer.
But the paint.
Have you seen that fucking video?
The paint should be trashed by now. It should have been trashed within the first passing through the Van Allen belt, right? Imagine the tires. The tires have air in it.
They should have
The
deflated,
plastics. There's just the pressures are different.
You ever hear what Elon Musk said about it?
It was a regular car.
Did you ever hear what he said what he said?
No.
When they asked him how come it looks so fake. The video. You ever seen the video of it in space?
Yeah, that shit looks fake.
Okay. Did you hear what he said?
No, I didn't.
Verbatim, he says, "You know it's real because of how fake it looks."
Just cruising along with the Blue Planet, and how long will we be getting live views, do you think, from the car?
Well, I think it looks so ridiculous and impossible. And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
That's his explanation for why it looks so fake. I would make the argument that they've been faking space for a long time, and I don't know that we're not in some barrier where in some intelligent life form has us blockaded. I don't know if we just can't get through the Van Allen radiation belt. I don't know if maybe all of our metal alloy honestly just crumbles when we send it the fuck out there. I don't know.
I've seen pictures on the moon where the shadow reaches the horizon. And I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but
you need to pull the picture so that they can see what you're talking about, and then we'll point it out.
It literally touches. Essentially, it's a black wall. If you see the ground is all bright and gray or silver or whatever, and then it's right there. It just,
dude, Truman Show.
Yeah, I
it's
guess.
The Truman Show.
Yeah. But
actually,
I'm like, what? This doesn't. This kind of hurts my eyes.
Truman Show actually dropped a little gem about this. There's a part in the Truman Show where one of the lighting fixtures falls.
It says Orion or something.
Yeah, it has the name of one of the satellites on it.
Yeah.
When it falls. Do with that information what you will, but if you actually look at Jim Carrey's, even his role choices over the years.
And him outside of being in film.
Yeah, he's a very, very interesting thinker.
A lot of times you cover up intelligence or some sort of different thinking with comedy.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of comedians are
very
highly intelligent individuals. A lot of times that's why they're very depressed, too.
Yeah.
Old school saying, tears of a clown.
Yeah.
But before we go ahead and wrap this segment, guys, I really want you guys to let us know what questions you have, what you want to make sure is answered when we hit with the research, because that's still coming. I'm going to make sure to have a playlist for you guys so that you guys can go and see, and it's really up to you. If you want to choose to believe the official story, that's fine, but either be able to back it up or honestly stay out of arguments and conversations. Facts. Now, some niggas get really upset about facts.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, guys. So we're going to bring this episode to a summation, I believe is the proper word. Luis and I sat down. You guys got to hear my intro. You guys got to hear some of what me and Luis talked about. And we really were just bringing up the questions, right? All of the fugazi stuff that people may not have been aware of. Right, there's no way to get filmed through the Van Allen radiation belt. How goofy the lunar space module looked, and how it's impossible for the president to be talking to people on the moon, and all these different things. And I just really wanted to get into the whys, right? Because for those who are not insane skeptics, they can look at it and say, okay, well, look, a lot of that bullshit does not add up. He has a point, or he has multiple points. But what is the reason for the lie? And based on everything that I've looked at, right, and you guys know I'm not even a religious person. The people who are the regular listeners, they know that's not my kick. I'm not some Bible thumper. But what we do have to acknowledge is this is a so-called Christian nation. And based on that principle, a lot of what was believed up until the scientific revolution was based on those religious principles. So, in my opinion, outside looking in, I don't have a dog in this race. It looks to me as though the objective of a lot of people involved in this is to disprove any thoughts of God, a God. No specific religion's God, but a God. Because the whole ideology of heliocentrism. Heliocentrism is the theory of us on a spinning ball hurling through the sun, us revolving around the sun, as opposed to the sun revolving around us. So there's geocentrism and there's heliocentrism. I didn't learn early enough that there was two schools of thought. I didn't learn that until I was an adult editing my Flat Earth debate. Go check that out. I'm not even in it. I'm just hosting it. Rick versus Quick, the Flat Earth debate. Go check that out.
Definitely a good debate for sure.
Yeah. I think that the entire objective is to hide any proof of intelligent design. Whether or not you believe in that, if other people believe in it and they are against it, then that makes sense once you understand the history of NASA and how they came from Nazis and how Wernher von Braun, the guy who started NASA, has a Bible verse on his tombstone. All these different things make a difference. What do you guys think about NASA, one, as an organization, and two, what you've heard of the conversation that I've had thus far?
So me, first and foremost, I'm with you on the religion aspect. Like, I don't really necessarily believe in any kind of one thing. And as a matter of fact, I don't even really believe that this country is a Christian country. I do believe that the majority of the people here are Christian because of the colonizers and the people who came over here before were of, I mean, they were Puritans, right?
He's talking about you when he said colonizers.
No, no, not specifically I. But, you know, the people that came over here, they were Puritans. They were the motherfuckers that got kicked out of Europe for being nuts. And what was the first fucking...
And poor. A lot of them were just because they were poor.
And why they were poor? Because they would go to work and they would say crazy shit.
I don't know about that. Fun fact. Prior to the Christian Puritans coming over, because some of what Steve is saying is verifiably accurate.
This sounds like a Scarecrow's Wish religion episode.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to get off this. I would just like to say that a part of the U.S. Constitution is something called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and there's also a Treaty of Morocco. This was actually Muslim-owned territory at certain parts, so people should definitely look into that. These are parts of the U.S. Constitution. But to a different note, think about how easy it would have been like 400 years ago to just call some bitch a witch. Like, you're walking down the street with your girl, and then your side chick walks by.
People still do it to this day, bro.
Right.
All right.
Your side chick walks by, and then your girl's like, I seen that bitch do magic. She's a fucking witch. Throw that bitch in the lake, and if she don't fucking drown, you know she's a witch. She drowned.
I want to ask questions, but I don't want to delve too deep into
Right, let's talk about the NASA
Let's go back to NASA.
Yeah.
So why would they hoax this whole thing? What is the point?
I don't think it's a hoax, bro.
You don't think what part's a hoax?
I don't think any of it is a hoax. I think a lot of what what's his name, von Braun, I just think that was a coincidence. I mean, there's people from different wars and shit like that there's people from different wars and shit that like we get intelligence from, and they help us understand how like bombs are built and like all this other shit. I mean, there's Nazis that help with the Manhattan Project too. A lot of people don't know that, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just that like, hey, we got these motherfuckers from Germany that had a certain skill or knowledge, and we use that knowledge to help us get ahead in the race.
We did talk about this in part 2.
And that's just what
that
we
goes
do.
back to Operation Paperclip.
So, I mean, is that
so
I get that they're Nazis,
yeah,
but is that a bad thing to do?
Do you feel like all Japanese people in America was put in concentration camps, or do we actually know for a fact that there were some Japanese people that was working at these different military bases, helping to build fighter jets and shit like that?
But see, that's
and
different.
we were also getting parts and electronics and shit from Japan during World War II.
That's different though, because these are the guys who were coming up with like the chemicals and shit that they would kill the Jewish people in these concentration camps with.
Right.
These are the guys that we brought in over here to help us maximize our potential in aerospace.
Facts. They have knowledge, they have skills.
So, are we wrong for that?
So hold on. I feel like you guys are debating the morality of Operation Paperclip, wherein I think it's wholeheartedly wrong, but that's irrelevant right here and right now.
He says that he doesn't think any part of it is a hoax. What I'm saying
I don't
is,
think they're trying
based
to
on the
hide
evidence provided,
divine intelligence. I just don't think that that's part of it.
Okay, cool. I think that based on the evidence
I think they're
provided,
trying to become divine intelligence.
Multifaceted.
But then you would
plan.
have to hide
Right,
the other one
exactly.
in order to become what you want to be.
They
you
are a
have
religious
to.
entity at this point. Everything that they say is based on
What if
faith.
it does?
That's the thing, though.
Yeah, so we don't
That's
know.
the point. What if the
But-
other one doesn't exist, but they're trying to tell you, like, hey, listen, we have the tools and the resources now to actually make these things work.
You hold on though, because you're making some presumptuous statements.
I'm really not.
You
It's based
are,
on
for the simple
evidence.
matter of the fact that
It's based on evidence that we already have.
all evidence shows that they did not land on the moon in the footage that they actually show us.
And
to
I
this
think
day.
Steve would agree to that. Steve, did they land on the moon?
We don't necessarily know.
That footage that you saw, do you believe that was accurate footage?
It is strange to me that we haven't been back, and they always come up with these different excuses about how difficult
They always
and how
need more
hard
money,
it is,
just like the church.
and the different resources. I mean, we
But
have
how do you
those available.
explain? How do you explain? That would be an interesting fact to include. How much money NASA was getting,
as opposed to today with inflation.
Yes.
So I've tried
at the time of when they went to the moon, supposedly.
In 1958, I got it right here. In 1958, they were getting $100 million for 3.
What's that with inflation?
$100 million back then
Right.
probably went a lot further than
That's-
62 million.
for
Wait,
sure.
So no,
100 million when?
100 million, 1958.
For how long?
Often? How often 100 million? Daily?
No.
For the entire
Is it
first
a year?
project to go to the
No,
moon.
this is for 3 major projects, which is one of them is going to the moon.
All right, so that ain't
So
shit.
this-
And they're
Yeah.
building rockets
Even
and
with
shit.
inflation, that ain't shit.
Right, because it spanned, like, if it was in 1958, that means it spanned like 14, 15 years.
And, all right, let's say in 1958, that 100 million was like today's, I don't know, Billy. Is that a fair?
I don't know. I don't
All right, let's give it the
No, I think it might be more. I think it might be more, actually. All bullshit aside, Steve can believe what he wants to believe, but there is no actual evidence that proves that we went to the moon. I've raised a lot of questions in part 2 that a lot of the people watching up until this point will know and be like, well, I don't know.
So you mean to tell me that the whole movie Hidden Figures with those very smart black women was just a waste of time? That shit didn't happen.
It's a movie.
I don't know.
It's based on historical evidence by news articles, like these women, the women's. Stop.
Look, bro.
The women, what is that?
I'm waiting for you to finish
Are you
your point.
jerking off?
Yeah, like I'm just waiting to do the splat. Here's what they want us to believe: that in the 1950s, when black people were still being hung regularly
in the South,
Nazi scientists who were literally injecting blue ink into Jews' eyes, Jewish people's eyes, in order to see if they could change their eye color. These people who hated people who looked that close to them. You think that these people decided, let's go get us a black woman, not one, but 3.
Okay, but
to come and fucking do the calculations that it takes for us to get to the moon. Why the fuck would Nazis give a fuck what these black women think?
If they found the skill and talent level in these 3 black women, yes, they would have brought them over.
Facts. And not only that, it
That's
wasn't
simple.
You're also positing that it was all Nazis. It wasn't. It might have been like 1 or 2 that was like.
That's bullshit.
It might have been 1 or 2.
That is propaganda that he's spewing for the record.
It could have been 1 or 2.
Bullshit.
That was really good at fucking geometry.
Nothing he's saying is
and
true.
We hired those assholes.
He's making presumptions based on nothing.
Listen,
no
it's
factual
not,
evidence.
No, there is factual evidence out there.
No, there's not.
Read a
Find
fucking book.
Find it for me.
Can we talk?
There's all kinds of books.
These are.
Did you read the book? Hidden Figures?
All right, hold on. Stop. We got to get some order here.
We do.
And
You're
we're
right.
all over the place. So
you're correct.
Look, let's just go off of it with, like you said, the why. Why would they do this? You feel like they're trying to cover up the fact of that there is
that's their umbrella objective. A shorter, much easier objective to see: money. A third reason is because of the Cold War. So up until the space race, Russia was actually it was the race to the center of the earth. That's where movies come from, like Journey to the Center of the Earth and shit like that. It was the race to the center of the earth. Problem with that is Russia dug for 30 years, 3 decades, and the deepest they ever got in was 8 miles. Now, to put that into perspective, that is not even scratching the fucking surface of what the heliocentric model says. That is, so you remember in school, we all had that same picture of the cartoon in our head. No actual real pictures, but we all have the same picture of the inner crust, outer crust, core, mantle, all of these things. We all have that picture of the layers of Earth. Mm-hmm. Now, my issue with that is nobody's ever seen that. Nobody's ever seen that. And on top of no one ever seeing that, they have absolutely zero evidence of that shit existing. So they stopped when they realized they couldn't dig any deeper. They're digging for 30 years, deepest hole ever dug by any humans anywhere. Then they start the space race. Our objective was, okay, I don't know that we can win the space race. And just for the record, Hitler took the Nazis to Antarctica multiple times. This is why we had so many operations that we had that we talked about in part 2. Mm-hmm. Our objective is, okay, we gotta fuck with their financial resources for their military. And the best way to do this, Russia put up a dog into lower Earth orbit. And then we're like, fuck it, we're gonna put niggas on the moon. And then after like Operation Fishbowl and shit like that, we find out we're in an enclosed system.
One thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth. There's no place to go.
We can't go nowhere but fuck it. We will still say that we did it. Boom, we riding. We put niggas on the moon in 1969. We haven't been back, since like 1972 or so. We haven't been back since, so it's been like 50 years damn near. Literally, there's no evidence that we went outside of a very poorly crafted video that none of us know without a shadow of a doubt whether it's real or not. I will not sit here and be as presumptuous as to say I know for a fact that it's bullshit. Yeah. All evidence points to it being bullshit. Yeah. All evidence points to it being bullshit, but I can't say I know without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, that little flimsy ass spacecraft that they had on that video, that shit would not go nowhere. Bro.
No, fuck out of here. It would have been destroyed, fucking. Right. And then how the fuck does the president hop on the phone and holler at these niggas like, yo, heard niggas on the moon?
Well, I mean, you guys got to remember that, like, the development of, like, the internet and all this other stuff had come out around that time. And there was
not for public consumption, but for the military aspects.
Exactly.
Yes.
And they had already been doing research with supercomputers. If you ever watched the episode of Star Trek, and all those big ass computers, like the big giant tall ones in the back, that came from somewhere. Hey. That came from NASA, because like NASA was already trying to figure out how to work supercomputers and how to communicate over long distances, very far distances, with little to no time.
I have a gripe with what you're saying, because you know what's more powerful than any supercomputer they had back then?
What was that?
My cell phone, your cell phone.
They didn't have cell phones.
No, 100% they did not. But here's what it begs the question. The simple fact that this supercomputer is 10 times light speed ahead of anything they had back then, but right now, today, we can't figure out a way to safely get humans through the Van Allen radiation belt. It leads me to believe that they didn't do it back then.
That is a good point.
No, it's not a good point, because it takes time for technology to develop. So,
but they already had the technology with way less technology.
Yeah,
they were able to do it.
It's still uncovering things to discover it.
But how do you do something once and not be able to repeat it?
Like, facts.
No. They did it like 6 times.
No, they know.
And then they haven't been back since.
Right.
Why?
They just haven't been back to the moon yet. But we have sent people into space.
We haven't. We've sent people into lower Earth orbit. We've never sent people into space.
We literally have an international space station that was built by all the governments in all the countries.
He doesn't know. It's 250 miles above Earth.
All I'm saying is, look, let's say we did send people into space. Why have we not gone back then?
Resources, time.
Bullshit. 50 years and
literally other presidents prioritizing other shit. The shutdown of the NASA program in 1998. They shut it down.
How long did it last, Steve? How long did the shutdown last?
Until Trump got in office.
Get the fuck. That's not at all true. Yeah. What you're saying is not at all true.
Obama definitely didn't do it. So who opened it back up?
Trump didn't do shit for NASA. Trump has the Space Force. You forgot about that goofy bullshit?
Oh God. Well, we don't actually have that. So.
All right, so we're not going to delve into Steve's liberal conspiracy theories. What we actually will talk about is provable scientific fact.
Listen, all the shit that I'm saying, you can also go look up, and there's literally evidence of it, and it's not a guy on YouTube.
But that's the point.
It's not a guy on YouTube just telling you what it is. You can actually go get books.
That's the whole point of this whole thing is, I think what Isaiah is saying with everything he's saying is that don't just take it for face value.
Don't take my word for it either.
Don't take his word for it. Fuck what we're all saying.
Right. So here's the argument.
It's that search for what is the truth.
Right.
And I think that's what Scarecrow's wish in general is.
That is the whole ideology behind it. I'm glad you said that. And I'm not ever sitting here trying to tell people what to think. I'm giving you the evidence that I've found and telling you what I believe. Steve believes something completely different. And as a person who sits down here with me as much as he does, and we make enough content and we share our ideas on and off cam, clearly I haven't been able to sway his opinion. I personally think he's the type of person that is dealing with cognitive dissonance issues, but that is a personal issue.
But you know what's important to also know?
Yeah, I'm dealing with the same shit though.
What's important to know is that these two guys, no matter their different points of views, can still sit down and have this conversation.
Facts. Because if we don't, then nothing's happening.
Right, there's no progression without it. So it's easy to get mad at somebody and say like, oh, I just don't like your point of view, or like you're disgracing whatever I believe in.
Right.
That's never the case. Like if we're approaching conversation in that way, we're never gonna go further with it.
Right.
And we need to ask these questions like this. We need to always stay on top of our government, on top of these agencies.
Definitely.
We claim they're
definitely. No, I'm not.
So, bro, when we're giving them 60-something million a day,
I don't think we're holding them anywhere near accountable.
Nowhere near. We need to have way more insight on what's actually going on, and that's just one branch of it.
True.
We need to be way more included on everything.
So the one thing that I feel like was left out of your research that you did was the fact that NASA often partners with local colleges and like universities and shit for their research.
That's the best way to control information.
Whether you believe that's the best way to control information or not, but it is some kid there that's super smart, probably good at math, that's figuring out how to make your phone work, how to make a heart.
Don't make this a science denier conversation.
A heart in a lab, a heart in a lab, or whatever the fuck.
It's a typical
There's somebody out there that's
debunker.
There's somebody out there that is in college right now that's going to end up working for NASA to find the equipment, the x-ray machines, whatever it is, to help find cancer faster and save people's lives. And that is part of what they do, and you cannot deny that, because there is anecdotal evidence, and there's also just evidence, period, that NASA has given more to this country, research-wise, than anything or anybody else.
With an unlimited military budget, they fucking better show something. They did fiber optics.
What is the military?
Look, they did fiber optics. They did Kevlar. They did
Facts.
I never deny the things that they actually did.
Do they protect us, or do they go to other countries and terrorize?
Maybe they do that too.
Both.
But look,
but it's
who
not
would you
them.
rather have at the helm?
Not NASA.
We come right.
At least our military does gangster shit and tells us what the fuck they're doing. Not NASA.
They don't tell you everything they doing.
Neither does NASA. Neither does NASA.
These guys, man. We come back to the same point of us hiring Nazis to be at the helm of our aerospace program.
But that's just how
we
the government
go and
works.
take what we need,
but to
no
your
matter
point,
what it is, whether it
is
be
that
Iraq,
okay?
Iran.
Is that okay?
Now we're
Why
getting
do
back
we
to morality.
No. Yeah, our conversation. Obviously, the three of us aren't about to figure out the morality of all these situations. Obviously, we're not.
But it's an interesting conveation to have.
It definitely is. I would say that the
sometimes you can't help it though, especially when you're dealing with.
Well, that's all it comes down to is the morality of it. Because if you're any sort of good person,
how you spend that $60 million, right?
Right.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
I feel you. The
And
military has a double that budget. How are they spending it? Is my point.
Maybe they're
going to other countries saying that they're terrorists.
And more airplanes and more.
I think that the average pseudo-intellectual makes it a point to go out of their way to defend everything
when the last time
that
somebody
NASA
attacked
has to
us
say.
other than September 11th? And do we actually really need all that to do that, to handle September 11th?
Well,
do we actually really need all that?
If you listen to the last episode,
why we not fucking with
Scarecrow's wish, 9/11 episode, there's a whole lot more that goes into that.
That might have not even been a real attack, so do check that out.
Yeah.
Conversation, but
I like that was.
I got you.
That was slick.
All right, so
good job.
All these things being said, guys, look, obviously we don't have all the answers, and obviously we don't all agree, and that's perfectly fine, because at the end of the day, our main objective is to have the conversations, present some of the evidence. Now, I'm also going to be including, like with every Scarecrow's Wish episode, a playlist that goes along with this episode where you guys can find it and subscribe to us on Mogul Minds Network, on YouTube, youtube.com/Mogul Minds Network, whatever it is. Subscribe to us. We will put the bio or the link for the playlist in the bio for this episode. We're going to make sure to hit you guys with so much research, but we didn't want this episode to be super, super long. So I want everybody to go ahead and make any closing statements that you may have, and then we can wrap this episode up. Guys, and most importantly, as always, like, comment, subscribe, and join the conversation. That's the most important part, guys.
Man. Yes, I need people on my side. Yo, let me know.
And don't forget those Nah Son shirts. You go to mogulminds.com/merch.
I actually got one. Look. I'm arguing the opposite, but those shirts are fucking dope, and I got one too. So definitely.
I can't look at a NASA shirt now. What up?
Yeah, exactly. Son. It doesn't matter what you believe. The shirts are fucking dope. Just go ahead and grab one, man. We really appreciate it.
And my closing statement would just be like we said earlier: continue conversation, join our conversation. Just keep talking about it. We keep putting pressure on these people and asking the questions, then we're gonna see more result and more benefits for all of us, because we are really the bosses in this shit, man. We've just lost the vision, and let's get the control back where it needs to be.